This is a Guppy, the brand new member of the Giggle species in Roblox doors. Actually, I lied! Mostly for dramatic effect, but also because this thing doesn't actually exist. You see, a while back I created a video going over my concept for a supposed lore-accurate fourth stage of Grumble development that occurs in between a Giggle and a Grumble, which is what I like to call a growl. I say fourth because technically Screeches, or their uninfected versions, are slightly older than Giggles. This means that a life cycle of a Grumble starts at a Giggle, then they mature into an uninfected Screech, before they finally turn into something similar to what looks like a Growl. Then they finally become a Grumble. In this video, however, we are looking at what a Grumble looks like before even being a Giggle, possibly the youngest stage of growth we are able to perceive. So, in this video, I'll be telling you everything about this lost stage of growth in the Grumble life cycle. So, let's begin. Alright, so let's just get the basics out of the way. We know that as a Grumble develops, a few physical changes to their body occurs. Obviously, they grow bigger in size, a lot bigger. But they also grow more tentacles, eyes, and teeth. This means that we can pinpoint where in the life cycle a Grumble is based on the number of these physical traits it has, and of course its size. For example, we know that an uninfected Screech isn't just a Giggle, but rather something older than it because not only is it bigger in size, but it also has more teeth and tentacles. Its lack of more eyes could simply just be explained by the black goop covering it. Using this logic, we can get a sense of what a stage of development prior to a Giggle looks like. Now, since it is a younger Giggle that we are focusing on, it must have less than 4 tentacles, 6 eyes, and 11 teeth, as well as a very small body size. So, with this in mind, here's what I've created. This is what I call a Guppy. It only has 3 tentacles, 3 eyes, and just 4 measly teeth, meaning it is lore-accurate in the sense of appearance, at least to a certain degree. Now, there are a few things you probably noticed with this entity, those being why is it called a Guppy, and why is its skin so smooth? Well, it isn't actually smooth, but rather, it is wet. You see, I imagine that due to a Guppy's small size, they don't really stand a chance on land. So instead, they would be aquatic creatures, residing solely in flooded rooms in the mines. It would kind of be like how frogs start their life cycle solely in the water before traversing on land. Now, because they spend all their time in the water, it's no wonder why their skin is wet. Using their 3 tentacles, they would be excellent swimmers, able to traverse any body of water relatively quickly with ease. In fact, the Guppy's relation to water actually ties into the functionality which I've proposed for the entity, that being that they will swim around very quickly in flooded rooms. However, unlike most entities in the game which are either solely helpful or solely harmful, or just don't do anything at all, the Guppies can both help and harm the player. Now, if you've been on this channel for a little bit, you'll know that I love the way Sally works, as I find their interaction with items super unique. So I thought of taking a little inspiration from Sally for these Guppy entities. You see, whenever you enter a flooded room, there's a chance of a group of 3 to 4 Guppies to appear swimming around in the water. There are 2 types of this entity though, one with their mouth empty and one with their mouth full. The ones with their mouths empty will actually harm people, as once the player steps into the water, this type of Guppy will rush to them, snatch a random item from their inventory and carry it in their mouth, then swim away. In order to retrieve your item back, you must click on that specific Guppy 3 times, a task that, although seems simple at first, can prove to be quite challenging when you realize that these entities swim incredibly fast, and how that since there are more than one, you can lose track of which one you're trying to click. After successfully clicking the Guppy 3 times, your player character will squish it, causing it to drop the item for you to pick up. What I also forgot to mention is that multiple Guppies can quote-unquote rob you at once, meaning if all 4 in the group have empty mouths and you are playing in single-player mode, they will all take an item from your inventory and you must squish all of them in order to retrieve your items back. However, I did say that Guppies can also be helpful, and that is where the second type of Guppy comes into play. These ones will spawn with an item already in their mouth, typically one of low value such as coins, bandages, band-aids, and glow sticks. But rarely they could have slightly higher value items such as lighters, bread, and cheese. These types of Guppies wouldn't necessarily target the player, but they could still be squished in order to drop whatever item they are holding in their mouth, meaning these types of the entity can be used to gain various amounts of low-tier items. This is still quite challenging though, as they would still be incredibly fast in the water. Really, the purpose of the guppies is to make flooded rooms a little more engaging by adding a minor threat which could appear in them, a threat that in reality could be harmful or helpful to you depending on what you get. Now, just like with the growl concept I created, the point of this video was to just give a theoretical lore-accurate design to those of the Grumble species during a certain unknown point of development, and this time it was the point before they become a giggle. Obviously, I also took some creative liberties, such as how the Guppy is an aquatic creature, but I can blame that on just wanting to make the entity interesting. So, this means that if we take into account the Guppy and the growl, the life cycle of a Grumble looks like this. The entity starts out as a guppy, which literally just means a baby fish. I probably should have mentioned that earlier, but that's why it's called a guppy. Anyways, it starts out as a guppy, then they become a giggle, then an uninfected screech, then a growl, and then finally they mature into a grumble. Technically though, after becoming a grumble, some become queen grumbles, so I guess that is the technical last stage of growth. So anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this entity concept, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy.